Hi everybody, it's Joe and I'm out here with Kai Spande.
Yep.
If you're in the Corvette club or if you've been following Corvettes at all, you really know who he is, but just in case you don't, would you please just give a quick background of
Sure.
you and what you've been doing?
Sure, so my name's Kai Spande and I ran the Corvette plant for almost 9 years and recently retired last year from the Corvette brand, but still a GM employee, and I'm happy to be here in Texas.
Well, awesome. So what is it like for you to come to big events like this where they're kind of celebrating the decades of the Corvette?
I love it because you can look around here, there's hundreds of cars and there's cars that are represented in every generation, C1 to the C8 and all of the variants. It's really interesting because you see the history of the car and you see the most modern car that we have here. There's an example of the E-Ray, which is a performance hybrid with an electric motor that's driving the front wheels and a gas engine propelling the back wheels. So it's a fantastic performance vehicle.
Well, that's cool. And that brings up a question we were talking just a little bit earlier. Is when you were going to the C8 from the C7, there was some question about whether that would be received pretty well,
Right.
and then now you're talking about this new one.
Right.
So what was the thought processes between the C7 and 8 and now with the new one?
Well, it's an interesting one because as the car has evolved, you do get to a point where with the architecture, with the front engine, rear drive, there's a point where you just can't go any further, and that's what we had with the C7. That means that you have to change the architecture. And there was a lot of concern, to be honest. Changing to a rear engine or a mid-engine architecture could potentially alienate the people that had made the car so fantastically relevant for 70 years. And so the plan that was put in place is that we were going to co-produce the C7 and the C8 for a period of time. However, once we got closer and closer to the launch of the C8, we realized that the car was so good that it could stand on its own. And as evidence in this car show, which has hundreds here, everybody that you talk to, they love this car.
Well, that's outstanding. Now, I don't have a strong background in Corvettes, but I know a lot of people watching this probably will. But was it unusual that you did the C7, C8 kind of together, not sure how it was going to go? Had that been done before?
No, it was always the evolution of the car, and it was refinement. When we got to the C8, it was a really revolutionary change. And of course, I worked at the factory. It was almost $1 billion of investment to introduce a new body shop, paint shop, general assembly process. So it was a huge investment and well worth it.
Yeah, well, for people who watch my channel, I cover and I've been showing the construction of Giga Texas for Tesla. And my question for you is, from a logistics standpoint, production standpoint, that must have been an immense challenge to try to do two vehicles at the same time with all the tooling, not sure which one's gonna go.
Well, you see me smiling right now.
Yeah.
When we found out that we did not have to co-produce for vehicles that were going to be sold, those two vehicles, that was an immense pressure off of us in the manufacturing site. A lot of the tools came by and it really streamlined the operation. So we would have had the capability. We didn't end up needing it, and that simplified our operations. However, it's still very, very complex because the proliferation with this car is fantastic. Over 100 different seat options, 14 different colors, wide body, narrow body, coupe, convertible, etc.
Do you foresee having this wide amount of options and variants of cars continuing, or do you see consolidating down to less options in the future?
Well, it's an interesting question. I think in the automotive industry, there should be and will be a compression of options just because it simplifies things dramatically. That's one of the things that was learned during the COVID timeframe. However, I don't see that happening with the Corvette, and I don't see that happening with high-end luxury sports cars, simply because the customers, they have a want and desire, and if you don't fill that, they will go somewhere else. And so, like I said, over 100 different seat options, colors, stitching, architecture, just as an example. We need to keep that for our Corvette customers.
Right. Well, the other thing you mentioned is, trying to embrace new technologies and kind of keep up with the times has been something that you had to do for decades with the Corvette. Each time they have a different version of that. Exactly. And you're going to have the same thing in the future now. What do you see as the big changes that you're going to have to look at embracing And how do you balance that with making sure your customers are still happy with what you do?
Well, I think that there's the Corvette customers, again, Taj Jukter, our chief engineer for the program, he once said that we always respect the past, but we need to look forward.
Okay.
And so the Corvette team is always looking forward and making sure that we fill the needs of our customer base. And doing that within the confines of regulatory requirements gets to be more and more of a challenge. However, we know what our customers like, and we've got plans to continue to knock their socks off.
Well, outstanding. Now, speaking of customers, have you had a chance to walk around through this Boerne car show, and what have you seen and what do you think?
I got invited to this car show. Actually, I was in Bowling Green, Kentucky, and I've never been here before.
Okay.
And actually, I think they closed the city down.
Right,
they locked the
exactly.
city up with this downtown, and it's fantastic. Even with the threat of some inclement weather, there's still hundreds of cars here, and it's great. The thing that I love the most is simply, the car is just different types of materials put together to create something that's very cool. To be honest, it's the thing that brings people together and the relationships that are formed. This is a perfect example
Right.
of that. People are here because of the fellowship, and I'm glad that I could participate.
Well, I do appreciate you taking the time to come talk to us and your information about what it was like to run the factory and try to decide how an older car and a newer car trying to be produced
Right.
at the same time came about. I really appreciate that. I know the viewers will as well. And I do appreciate the time, and look at more of the event here before the inclement weather comes.
Yep.
And all the best. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.